Hey, it's Chris from Dashboard Confessional. I'm here at Amoeba, and this is what's in my bag.
And since we're being open for the first time in a long time, I see you everywhere I go. And everywhere I go, I feel the same damn burning heart.
This is the first thing. This is the Cure, the Head on the Door. Well, at least 2 songs on this record were put on a mixtape for me. It was Kyoto Song and In Between Days. And that was my first introduction to the Cure. I would fall deeply in love with the Cure and Robert Smith's sense of melody and his vocal delivery, but also like the slow rollout and restraint that they would show in all those songs that would eventually become massive. I don't think I've employed that in my music, but that's something that has struck me about the arc of a live show. I remember seeing the Cure for the first time, as a matter of fact. It must have been on Wish, and being amazed that we were like 15 minutes in or 20 minutes in before any word had been spoken or sung. You would think, after waiting to see this band, you'd be getting impatient, but instead I found myself like in total awe and wonderment of like, where could this song possibly go? It's funny because there's songs on their records have that, even though you know after many listens where they're gonna go. It still feels like this could take me anywhere. Anyway, that's why I picked this one. I just love this as a personal memory of how much music it brought me after that. And I've never had it on vinyl.
Never thought tonight could ever be this close to me.
This record is a record by the band The Promise Ring called Very Emergency. And this record means so much to me for so many reasons. It was their first with a new bass player named Scott Shanebeck, who I would later get to play with for like the majority of my career in Dashboard Confessional. There was a number of bands in this era, Jimmy Eat World, Texas Is the Reason, Promise Ring, Sensefield, that were doing something so new in the punk rock scene I was from. There was this introduction of melody in a richer way than I'd heard it before. The guitars were, I've heard it called noodly a lot, but I didn't find it that way. I found them to be interwoven the whole time. It represented a dynamic shift of this record.
When I come around, I'll come around, come around, come around.
There aren't too many records like this. There won't be any that you'd find nowadays. This is a promo record. That's R.E.M's Should We Talk About the Weather. It's just a collection of 4-quarter-hour segments, like talking promotionally about, I think, Green, the album Green. And I'm blown away by the cover art, by the way, and the back cover art. Both incredible, but just the concept of like, this is how people used to communicate their hopes for a record, was through another record. I love it. I can't wait to play it on repeat like my favorite songs. That's probably less likely, but I'm excited to have this one in my collection.
See, Stan is almost tongue-in-cheek.
We have wonderful chemistry. We never bring in, no one ever brings in just a completely finished song from beginning to end.
I wanted to put hope into the music, and hopefully I did.
The infamous Mellotron, yeah, I played that.
I don't know how many times in my life I can buy this Sugar record, file under easy listening, which, you know, I grew up sort of post this era, but I did get introduced to Bob Mould's music like sequentially, like first his Sister Do, and then Sugar, and then his solo records. And I remember having a certain resistance to listening to Sugar when my friend brought it over to hear it for the first time, and I was wrong. I was so wrong. I fell even more in love with Bob Mould's songwriting, particularly Can't Help You Anymore, and of course, Your Favorite Thing. This is Refuse, The Shape of Punk to Come. This tore away any sense of limitation that an entire scene once felt it had to work within. The constraints of hardcore music were good, they were effective. This lane that it was in was what made it powerful, but it had a long arc. There was probably a point where parameters had set the bands up to really mark their territory and really finely tune their sense of how to express what they really meant. There was a point where I think maybe that was a little bit exhausted. Those very rules became constraints and restraints. And Refused did something pretty remarkable. Anything that they could express themselves with more power is what they did. But sometimes that meant bits of jazz in the song, and sometimes it meant techno or EDM or house music. In the way that it eschewed what had come before it in hardcore, it defined what would come after it in hardcore and beyond hardcore.
Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me come and visit the store. I love it so much.
So here's to fighting less, here's to living more. Here's to feeling alive again, here's to picking yourself off the floor. Here's to waking up.